You have met this person, maybe at work, maybe in a meeting room where everyone was competing to be heard, maybe at a dinner table where the conversation never stopped, and they just sat there watching, no arguments, no need to prove anything. No opinions offered to people who never asked for them, and when the evening ended, you couldn't stop thinking about them. Not the ones who talked the most. The one who said almost nothing. There is a reason for that feeling, and it goes much deeper than most people ever realize. From childhood, the message is the same. Speak up, make yourself heard, take up space. The person who speaks is the person who leads. Intelligence is visible. Confidence is volume. If something valuable lives inside you, show it loudly, constantly, to anyone willing to listen. What nobody teaches you is that the most powerful people in any room are almost never the loudest ones. They are the ones nobody could fully figure out. The ones who listened while others talked, who watched while others revealed themselves, who stored everything and returned nothing. This is not shyness, not social anxiety, not the behavior of someone with nothing to say. This is one of the oldest and most sophisticated forms of power ever practiced. And the people who have mastered it have been shaping the world for thousands of years. In almost complete silence, Epictetus was born a slave in the Roman Empire. No freedom, no rights, no control over almost anything in his external life. And yet he became one of the most influential philosophers in history, in the world he inhabited. Saying the wrong thing to the wrong person could end your life. Silence was not a social preference. It was armor. He wrote that the discipline of not speaking was harder than any physical discipline a person could practice. The body can be trained to be still, but the mind wants to be known. It wants to announce itself. It wants the room to understand what it contains. Resisting that impulse is one of the hardest things a human being can learn to do, and one of the most powerful. Queen Elizabeth I ruled England for 45 years. In a court filled with men who wanted her throne, her power, and her compliance. Her survival strategy was documented by her own advisors and the ambassadors of foreign powers who tried to negotiate with her. Almost never a direct answer. Questions instead of statements. Interest expressed without position revealed. Rivals and ambassadors allowed to speak until they had shown everything they needed from her, without her having shown anything she needed from them. One Spanish ambassador wrote home in frustration, "This woman is impossible to read. 3 hours in her presence. And I know less about her intentions than when I arrived." He meant it as a criticism. It was the highest possible compliment. The moment your position is known is the moment your opponents begin constructing a strategy against it. Mystery is not weakness. Mystery is a fortress. Now think about the last important conversation you had at work. Maybe a salary negotiation. Maybe a conflict with someone who had more power than you. Maybe a moment where you needed something, and you were sitting across from the person who could give it or take it away. What did you do with the silence? Most people fill it immediately. They over-explain, they soften, they qualify, they give reasons nobody asked for. They talk themselves out of positions they were winning, because the quiet became unbearable and the person across the table let them, because they knew something most people never learn. That silence in a negotiation is not a problem to be solved. It is pressure, and pressure applied patiently almost always makes the other person move first. The person who speaks first to fill a silence almost always gives something away. The person who can sit inside that silence without flinching almost always receives something. Think about the people in your own life who unsettled you most. Not the aggressive ones, not the ones who threatened or demanded. The ones you simply Could not read. You didn't know what they were thinking. Couldn't tell if they approved of you. Didn't know whether they were impressed or completely unmoved. Didn't know where you stood. That uncertainty changed how you behaved around them. More careful, more considered, more aware of every word leaving your mouth. Nobody asked for that. No demands were made. No authority was claimed. It was generated simply by giving you nothing to work with. Psychology has a name for what most people experience instead. The illusion of transparency. The deep instinctive belief that what we feel is visible to others. That emotions, intentions, inner states are somehow readable on the surface. For most people, this belief is accurate because most people have never learned to create a gap between what they feel and what they show. The person who has learned to stay silent has broken this illusion entirely, holding things internally that most people would have already released. A reaction, an opinion, a defense, an explanation nobody asked for. Every time something is held back that could have been said, distance is created between the interior and the exterior. And that distance is where power lives. Here is something that happens in every office, every family, every room where people gather. Someone says something provocative, an unfair criticism, a subtle insult, a comment designed to test you, and the room waits. Most people react immediately. They defend, they explain, they match the energy, and in doing so, they hand the other person exactly what was wanted. Proof that the button exists. Proof that pressing it works. The quiet person does something different. They pause. They let the comment land without letting it move them. They respond, if they respond at all, after the moment has already shifted and the person who threw the provocation suddenly has nothing to stand on, because you cannot destabilize someone who has already decided not to be destabilized. The Japanese have a concept with no direct translation in English. The pause, the gap, the interval between things. Not emptiness, the space that gives meaning to everything surrounding it. A note in music means nothing without the silence before and after it. A word carries weight only because of the silence it interrupts. A decision lands with power only when it has not been diluted by 100 smaller reactions before it. The person who speaks constantly becomes noise. The person who speaks rarely becomes signal. Every word lands differently. Every statement carries weight. Every moment they choose to speak. The room goes quiet to listen. You have seen this person, felt this effect, and somewhere along the way, wished you could create it. The practice is not complicated, but it is deeply uncomfortable. Tolerate being unread. Let people wonder. Hold the reaction that wants to escape. Ask the question instead of making the statement. Listen past the words to what is actually being said beneath them, because the quiet ones have discovered something that everyone else is too busy performing to notice. People reveal extraordinary things when they believe nobody is truly paying attention. Who is afraid? Who is lying? Who needs something they will never directly ask for? Who is the most dangerous person in the room? Who is the loneliest? All of it visible. To the one who stopped needing to be heard, there is one more thing. Perhaps the most important thing. The smartest people who stay silent are not calculating, not strategizing, not performing restraint for an audience. They have simply discovered that the world is more interesting when you listen to it than when you talk over it. That other people, when truly heard, reveal things of extraordinary depth and beauty, things they would never say to someone who was waiting for their turn to speak. The quiet ones are not withholding themselves. They have found something more valuable than being understood. They have learned to understand, And in a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, the person who truly listens becomes the rarest, most sought-after presence in any room, not because they demanded it, because they earned it. In silence, VeilMind, decode the hidden rules of the mind. They never taught you this in school.